And now the recording has started. So what I will do is also go on to share the screen, and then we'll go through competency framework following the presentation. So I'll now come out of this presentation now and be able to share for Ewan. Are you okay, Ewan, to start and just introduce? Start. Are you on video or are you not with the video?
Do you want to just share the screen, Kerry? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Ooh. See the slides, Kerry?
Yeah. Can you see?
Not at the moment, no, Kerry.
Not at the moment.
Okay. I apologise for some reason. That should be sharing now. Is that? No?
Groby. I'm a member of the IOSH Staffordshire branch, also a principal consultant in the construction sector for health, safety and wellbeing. But also I've spent the last 9/10 years of my career as an on-call firefighter. So here's what the health and safety implications of what I do. So next slide, please. So just around sort of a little bit of an agenda in terms of, I will talk about the role of what we do, why we do it, the on-call firefighter, but also more around hazards and risks that we face, and then control measures, and also some of the lessons learned from previous incidents around certain areas, and how when we've managed or we've learned from the experience of what has occurred throughout, but it's around remaining safe in a very dynamic environment. Next slide, please. So what is it that we do? It's a part-time role. We do it alongside our other careers. We do it alongside either we're a whole-time firefighter or we have other careers outside the organisation. We're there for our communities. We don't do it for anything else but that. Every on-call firefighter that I know and have worked with within other brigades and also my own, we serve our communities. We live within them. We serve them and we serve the wider community. I work for Staffordshire Fire and Rescue, so I serve both my local community and the wider community. We respond to fire calls from home or from work. We don't live at a station. We don't work from a station. Basically, we have a pager and we have a fire call, and we have to then drop everything that we're doing in that moment, be potentially bathing children, asleep, playing video games, whatever you do in your recreational time, and then you've got 5 minutes. Some do respond from being in their place of employment. However, that is very much agreed with their employer before that can actually happen and take place. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is what it is. It's the pager of doom, I like to call it. It's joking aside. So yeah, it's basically this is what we will respond to. It will wake anyone up in the household. It's waking me up at 2-3 a.m. in the morning, and it's basically makes some very loud, colourful, flashy lights. There's also we don't use we have a text message contingency, but yeah, this is how it will get to the station within 5 minutes. Next slide, please. So our commitment, so why we do what we do, and we have to basically provide what we call a declaration to the organisation of hours. That'd be minimum 50 hours per week. It may be more, it may be less, depending on decisions in terms of, the service has got to work for us as much as we have to work for the fire and rescue service that we want to join. We are paid for the hours we give. I think it's a bit of a misconception throughout. It's not volunteer. We are given a retaining fee. Again, we have to remain within 5 minutes during our declaration within that turnout area, and we have to respond. I live very close to my parents, so I sometimes go to my parents, but make sure we can respond. We do the same job. We get the same training as our whole-time firefighter colleagues, and the training is quite extensive and elaborate, so I will go into that. We do earn a pension and we do get paid leave, but ultimately, that is what we give for our commitment. It have to have a balancing act on our loved ones and our families and our hobbies as well as what we do. Next slide, please. So before we join, we go through quite a rigorous assessment process. So it's an application. Basically, do we want to join? Are we interested? I'm speaking to someone at the moment who's interested in joining. And then it's a basic maths and English test, physical job-related tests. So the physical job-related tests are a couch-free drag, a ladder climb for confidence, and then equipment assembly and a small restricted space, all risk assessed and considered, especially as our members of the public. And we ensure that everyone is fit and well, and briefs are done before and after what we do. Then an interview, and finally a medical. And medical is just basically, understanding any kind of pre-existing medical conditions that would affect you doing the job, or any things that we, if you were colourblind or hard of hearing, then unfortunately you couldn't do it because of the risks of what we do and the safety aspects of the critical role that we are required to perform when we actually go out there and undertake our role. Next slide, please. So, as you're all aware, we're all health safety professionals. Training is probably the heart of something which is vitally important for every single role that we do and every single role that we perform throughout our professional lives and also our personal lives as well. And we are no different. The services that we join are no different. So we get once joining, we go through core skills. This is looking at kind of pumps and ladders, the mechanics, hydrology, risk methodology, attending incidents, working at heights, tying knots and lines, words of command, and it's very much looking at that discipline aspect of the job that we do, and how then we work. Also, really kind of building those team working skills, because we are going to be in a variety of levels of teams, whatever we do. Breathing apparatus, so that is at the core element of what we do. We couldn't fight fires without BA training, and we do cold wears, which is our search and rescue techniques. And if any of you want to laugh, please YouTube BA shuffle, because it's always a good disco move to perform. And then we look at hot wears as well, and hot wears are live fire training controlled within a safe environment, safest environment that we can portray, but then controlled with very experienced instructors and robust risk assessments, and to undertake the role and undertake those wares. We look at road traffic collisions, the mechanism of injuries, and we also look at hazmat materials. The Mr. Blobby suit is a hazmat suit. Trust me, it's the most awkward thing you can wear ever, and it's a really, really bad day in the office if you've got to wear one of those. Next slide, please. So, ongoing training. Every job has on-job training, ongoing training, and we are no different. So every Tuesday we have to commit to a drill night. So we will, apart from when the football's on, that will change. But most drill nights for me are a Tuesday. At the moment, because we are looking at post-Grenfell, we have updated our high-rise or tall building procedures, as we now call them. We don't call them high-rise. We call them the tall buildings, and it's looking at how then we respond in an effective and safe manner to any kind of tall buildings and our procedures and policies, and test it. And we do other things as well compared to our thematic training. But again, before we do any training on the incident ground or on the fire ground, it's all a specific risk assessment is done. We have our training operational risk assessments that back us up, but every single time before we go out there on the drill yard, we risk assess it to the best of our ability and knowledge, and control measures are in place where needed. Next slide, please. We do more than just fight fires or go to car crashes or go to hazmat. We do a lot of other things as well, and one of these is prevent. So prevention is always going to be better than cure, and the service is no different. And the way we do this is through safe and well checks. So we go out to vulnerable members in our communities, and we don't just fit smoke alarms anymore. We also look at the holistic approach in terms of, is there any signs of mental health issues? Is there any signs of falls? And then we direct those to our learning colleagues in the prevent department, who will come out and provide either additional assistance or additional guidance, or do a joint visit with a nurse practitioner or someone from the NHS to provide and ensure that they are staying safe in their homes. It's coming to winter times, and yes, this winter is more hard than other times because of the fuel crisis which is going on within the world. However, that being said, that also leads to different ways of heating their homes. So what we're trying to do is we're providing advice and guidance on the safest ways to heat their homes without causing, no open candles, for example, is one. But also looking at their well-being as well, ensuring that, loneliness, even though Christmas is a nice time, it can also be a lonely time for people as well. So just that kind of engagement and contact. Next slide, please. Again, we also protect as well. So protect is under the fire and rescue, so we're under the regulatory reform Fire Safety 2005 order for 2005. We have a statutory duty to ensure that as a fire and rescue service and others, that all industrial or commercial premises have, a fire safety management in place. That being both a fire risk assessment, which is undertaken by a competent individual, depending on the level of risk. But we'll also, within our very specific Protect department, look at fire safety drawings and to ensure that approved document B is met. How do we support this? We support this by doing familiarisation visits throughout the organisation and throughout businesses. So when a new business is built or when it's been commissioned or changed of use, we will go out there as an operational crew. We won't just look, we'll both look at the risks to ourselves and also the hazards of risks if that building wants to be on fire or to be damaged structurally. However, we will also look for signs where there's wider fire safety issues, and then from the support of our learned colleagues within the Protect department, they'll come out and they'll do audits. And if you ever seen any enforcement, the enforcements are always brought by a Protect department within the fire service. Yes, the regulatory body, the enforcement legal bodies get involved, but it normally comes from a Protect department. Next slide, please. So we don't just attend fires, we don't just attend building fires, we attend a wide variety of incidents, from building fires to hazmat and also to marauding terrorism and assisting with ambulance. However, we attend also wildland fires and hazardous material incidents as well, and all risk controlled. Next slide, please. So as I've said before on the previous slide, we attend a vast array of incidents in very dynamic, changing risk environments. Unfortunately, we have lost firefighters throughout the UK. And if you are ever privileged to go to the Fire Service College in Morton, there is a bell at Morton with the fallen brothers and sisters that are on the wall. And it's very humble to go up there. But yeah, that's a sign of respect for what we do and the risks that we face. But we want to ensure that everyone goes home as safe as they are, and also we've effectively dealt with that incident in a safe and controlled manner, as best to our knowledge as we can. And that comes along with training and competency within the station I work within. There's probably 150 years worth of experience, and we'll use that experience to ensure that we keep each other safe and everyone else who has to support the incident safe as they can be. Next slide, please. So if we look at some of the risks from industrial fires, this is probably, unfortunately, this is where in the past, in looking from case studies where people firefighters have died. However, some of the hazards and risks that we face, flashover and backdraft are probably the two most volatile. And so a backdraft, it's not a film. It's basically a violent under source fire, which volatilely, when oxygen comes into that room, the oxygen entrained creates a mass increase in temperature and force, and that can actually blow out, and that will unfortunately kill people if not controlled in the correct way. A flashover is the complete entire compartment on fire. And last but not least, fire gas explosions. So fire gas explosions have enough force to lift a shipping container. So we want to look out for those signs and symptoms. Building collapse is another, because building doesn't like fire. 493 degrees, steel loses 2/3 its structural intensity, so we've got to look out for that as well. And unfortunately, hanging cables. So one case study where firefighters didn't survive because of falling and hanging cables. Next slide, please. So how do we deal with our fires and industrial fires? We're going to have to go in and face those. We're going to have to go in and control them. So our PPE is breathing apparatus as a minimum, and that's 26 minutes of compressed air used in the correct way to ensure, as a team of 2 or more to control, go in with a firefighting media to ensure to extinguish a fire. We don't throw lots of water on a fire. We only use the correct amount because our firefighting PPE structurally is very good at heat. It's not so good at steam. So when we're putting water on that fire within that compartment, we apply steam. So we use the minimum amount, and also it's very effective in terms of the way we enter a building. Again, reading the signs of fire is absolutely paramount when we're in there, looking at signs and conditions. Are they getting worse? Are they getting better? And if needed, we will pull out and we will get a bigger, better firefighting media or a better team, or attack it in another way, ventilation or otherwise. And of course, training in every environment that we can think of for industrial fires. Next slide, please. So yeah, road traffic collisions. Again, these happen all throughout the year. In terms of what we face, moving traffic, of course, are going to be normally live carriageways, bodily fluids, whether that be blood or others, fuel, but not just fuel, as we're moving into a more technological environment as well. Hybrid cars and also lithium-ion battery cars as well are also a risk to us as well in terms of trying to isolate them. Our cutting tools. So our cutting tools, if they're not battery operated, are pressurized, and they cause what we call an epidermal injection. So an epidermal injection is basically the hydraulic oil pierces your skin, but doesn't have the pressure to go all the way through your skin. So you have to, it's not a nice process when you have to do it, if it happens. So we control that as best we can. Sharps, we're going to be cutting roofs off cars, bits off cars. So sharps is an inevitable one. And manual handling, either that's a part of a car or of a casualty as well, or multiple casualties. We have to consider weather conditions, whether that be wet, wind, rain, snow. We go out in it no matter what. And yes, cars have driven through incident grounds, trust me. Some people just don't give a care in the world, and they will just drive through incident grounds. So we control that, but yeah, it has happened to us in the past. Next slide, please. So how do we control this? We'll use our big fire engines as cordons because they're big and meaty and people don't really go through them. We close the road, and we have, under the Fire and Rescue Service Act, with the power to close roads and stop traffic, but that's a legal power of ours. Again, the use of PPE, but also additional protection. So we use hard protection and soft protection between cutting tools and equipment tools. And also, we don't ever fight with a tool because it's operating at about 720 PSI. So the tool's going to win every time. Sharp protection is a must around, either looking at additional, when we do create those cuts, we want to make sure that we protect ourselves and also protect the casualty if they're coming out. And crew rotation, we're not all built massive, strong people, so we've got to understand our own limitations, and crew rotation is quite useful, both for individual and as a team, and that's holding hand on the cone. I'm quite tired now. I need to move around, and trust me, tools are quite heavy. They're about cutting tools about 25 to about 10, 15 kilograms, and you're trying to, in awkward positions, you need to change around when you can. Next slide, please. So Hazmat CBRNE. The actual substance, what it is, what it could be. We live in some very dynamic times. So we have seen this. So that could affect us, especially it's a really bad day if you've got to deal with radioactive material or nuclear material or explosives. So we have to ensure that we have the correct appropriate controls if we are ever going to go into those situations. Next slide, please. So how we're going to do this. So we've got to consider as what we call a snatch rescue in hazmat materials. So we may not have the time to put our full Mr. Blobby suits on because these are very cumbersome. If you're turning up to something, they take about 10 to 15 minutes to put on. So if you've got a casualty there, we will take that dynamic decision to rescue that casualty. So we would look at the layers of PPE versus the risk risk appetite to life risk and how then we can save that if we can. Again, we will wear gas tight suits. So these are what we call gas tight suits. However, they have a maximum time you can wear them for, and you can only wear them for 20 minutes if they are if it's not cryogenic. It's cryogenic. You only have 10 minutes in the risk area with the suits on. Communications is quite hard to have internal radios, and then decontamination, because we want to get that nasty stuff off us as quickly as we can. So we've got makeshift showers we can use, but also then we've got a full decontamination unit which we can request to ensure that we get rid of it, and then we get records are kept, and also safe undress as well. So if we will deal with buildings which have asbestos within them, so we have procedures where we can safely get rid of our kit without exposing ourselves to asbestos. Anything like that, again, for us is double back, swan necked, recorded, and then we are then sent to as precautionary checks if needed to hospital as well. And also every year we have an asbestos medical at the same time. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, as we deal with the times, this is Manchester Arena. For those who probably already know where it is, but we now support mass casualty evacuations. So we will go into a risk area if to support our police colleagues. Next slide, please. So especially if we ever have to do this, and I hope in my career this never ever happens. However, the world we live in today, we have to be prepared for this to occur. So this will be a police-led incident from the get-go. It's not our incident, but where if we have to attend or if we have to get involved, we'll have very specific training. There's only 2 stations in Staffordshire which are marauding terrorism trained, because they're very special, and basically what we will wear additional is we'll wear ballistic, basically army armor, army PPE. So it's ballistic vest, ballistic helmet, and very strategic risk controls in place as well. Next slide, please. Animal rescue. Yep. So we do rescue animals. So we do more than just attend fires. So the risk from there is the animal itself. I've seen a horse is a very volatile animal. Even though it's very nice, it can be quite, and a horse kick will hurt you a lot. I've seen a plastic shield, protection shield, being split in half by a horse kick. So that's a risk in itself. The biological aspects around it as well. You're dealing with mud and slurry and all kinds of things around there which could expose to biological hazards. What could be in the actual mud itself. Manhandling, especially for here, we will look for additional lifting aids. So either we will normally try and get use farm machinery by the farmer if we can agree that in terms of risk methodology. But if we can't, then we have other aids such as slings and ways we can strop and prop and use pull. And fatigue's a big one. You're trying to move a horse out of water or move a cow out of mud. It's very, very hard work. And but also the water risk. Again, cows like to live. Cows get stuck in rivers, so then we've got the additional risk of water, so flows, flooding, drowning, and also being swept away potentially if the flows are high enough as well. Next slide, please. Cheers. So how do we control this? So we have a dedicated animal rescue unit. We have 2, Cannock and Lichfield are R2. Sorry, Cannock and Leek are R2. So Cannock is a level 2 and Leek is a level 3. So Leek is the boffins of animal rescue and they're called out. So what we will do is we'll put cordons in place. We'll stop the farmer or the people who own the horse for trying to get involved because they like their animal. But it's an effective control measure for us, and we'll just talk to them and keep them safe. Working area, so we define working areas in terms of hot, warm and cold zones. So hot zone, if it's with an animal, Leek and Cannock will work within, and then we'll go outwards in terms of the less skilled, we'll then work to control in terms of that risk. We will request a vet as well, especially if it's a horse, because horses are very lovely animals but can be quite volatile. So on the direction of the vet, we will use their skills, knowledge and experience as required. Next slide, please. So yeah, we don't just do stuff for the fire service. We also support our police colleagues more in terrorism, but we also support our ambulance service as well with gaining entry. But that comes with the aspect of if we have to get entry for someone, either that's because we've got a bariatric case or they've fallen over and they can't. So yeah, we will gain entry. Don't worry, we're not going to break your door down. We have some kit that can do that very easily and not destroy doors. But the hazards there are manhandling, the restricted space we've got to work within. It may be with someone's house, and when you've got 5 firefighters, 2 paramedics, the movability becomes very limited, and of course fatigue, especially within a small environment, and trying to move and trying to use resources appropriately. Next slide, please. So again, what we'll do is work together. We'll use on the casualty-centered rescue, and it's a kind of joint risk control. So we will, if we don't need that many people in the house, or if it's just a fall, then we'll use slings, or we'll kind of we've now got a makeshift kind of pulley system, kind of a sheet system we can use. So there's other things we can use to mitigate the amount of people in there, but also the risk to us, and also the kind of maintaining that person's decency as well. Next slide, please. So I've talked a lot about like the hazards and risk, but what do we do as organisations? What do we do as Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service to ensure that we keep everyone at incident ground, whether it be a firefighter, member of the public, third party, network rail, police, ambulance, whoever, is we have to keep everyone safe. How do we do this? So if, for example, a fire, so if it's an industrial fire, it'll be fire led. And so we have the dynamic risk assessment process. So everyone will use that. And it's in terms of, it's not recorded. We do have a decision tree, but these are risks we will take in terms of the balance of risk versus the outcome. So is it worth that snatch rescue for that person versus the savable life scenario? When we get the command structure in place, we will then move to analytical risk assessments. So these are recorded risk assessments done by safety officer. In terms of, so analytical risk assessments, they also record all hazards and risks, risk ratings as per normal risk assessment, but they're just they are live, very living, very dynamically changing documents. So, for example, if the fire required a higher form of media, we'd record that. We'd ensure that was on there. If we are calling acetylene cylinders, again, we record the temperature and the amount of time it took. Again, with the safety officers, for a small incident, we'll just have the one safety officer. So it's one person RTC, one car RTC, just be one. However, as we move into very large scale incidents, so if you're looking at, so in the press at the moment, the Wolverhampton one with a MAPEMS 20, that's going to require additional safety officers within different sectors of that incident. So we ensure that when we need additional resources, we ensure that spans of control for safety are always met and always controlled and always considered. And then also we have, if we need a specific safety officer for a specific risk, we will then use that. Anyone who does that is trained and ensures they can actually identify the risks. And what we'll do sometimes, so for example, I've had incidents where we've got an electrical pylon has fallen partly in the exclusion zone. We've just used a single safety officer, and their sole job is to stop anyone going anywhere near that exclusion zone. I've also pointed out the JESIP's doctrine. So the JESIP is our joint doctrine of working between other emergency services. So, for example, the Manchester bombing arena was a joint incident approach. So it used police, fire, ambulance, and other third parties. The JESIP principles, or the JESIP doctrine, if you want to read it, basically looks at that joint decision making, but that more importantly, that joint appetite for risk and decision making. Because if the paramedics want to get in there, but it's our incident, then we have to kind of control them to a certain degree. But also the fact of whenever we complete an incident or we close down incidents, information is passed, we have handovers, and all our risk assessments from the analytical risk assessments, because they could be pages and pages long depending on the length of the incident, they're all passed to our operational assurance team to review, because we have to keep learning the lessons from what has gone on. Next slide, please. So just want to kind of point out some of the charity work that we do as Staffordshire Fire and Rescue, and what we've done as a watch as well. So Firefights charity is absolutely amazing. Anyone can use it within the fire and rescue service which they're employed, whether they be operational and whether they're non-operational. But it's, again, it gives both mental health, well-being, physical rehabilitation. You can also use it if you've been in for 5 years and have left. You can then use the services, but there's some great, amazing services which they offer to support either injured firefighters or firefighters' families who need that help and support. How do we help? So we do a car wash every year as a watch, but unfortunately last year we lost one of our good colleagues to a brain tumour. He was fighting for a long number of years, so we split the money between the Firefights charity and the brain tumour charity, which we were very grateful for in the end. But yeah, we will always very much around our community focus and our community. So we managed to raise £500 for both charities, so £250 split, and it was very much well received. Next slide, please. Is there any questions at this time?
No, there aren't any questions, Ewan. Nothing in the chat at the moment.
That's fine. I've got 2 more slides, so I'll just carry on those on. So next slide, please. I kind of just want to finish on in terms of a well-being moment for Christmas. Yeah, it's a great time to be a family and friend. It's a great time, but however, we can't forget that people spend it alone or people spend it in isolation. So it's just around, both look after yourself, but also look after those around you, even that's a colleague or a loved one, and also take the break to recharge. We're all very passionate individuals, and that we do and deliver, but it's around understanding that take the time and to also and ask colleagues if they're okay twice, and if they need that help and support. It's my first time being a line manager, so if I need to help support with that, or my colleague or my person below me, then I help them with whatever they need as well. But also, last, and look after yourselves, as well. Next slide, please. And then, yeah, have a great Christmas, everyone. I think firstly, thank you, Midlands branch, for inviting me. It's been very much appreciated. And second, I hope everyone has a lovely Christmas and a New Year and enjoys the break. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Ewan.
Yes, thank you, Ewan. It's very good.
No problem.
Looks as though you've had a pretty interesting time of things over the course of your duties. How do you cope with stress of traumatic incidents?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I've been in for 10 years and I've seen the darker side of the world. So there's many. So yeah, we have a crew. We're always going to work in a team, and I've worked with that team for the last 9 years. I joined with one of them 9 years ago, and there's that kind of internal support between them. So you can talk to your colleagues, you can talk to your gaffer, so kind of like your line manager as well, so like crew watch manager. But also, every traumatic incident we are offered TRIM, so traumatic risk incident management. So that's delivered by a station manager, and basically it's like an open forum where you can talk as either a group or an individual about how it's infected you, and it's kind of get off your chest. And then if they see triggers, they then can refer you to occupational health. And so we have an occupational health unit, which then supports. So you've got counsellors and therapists there that can kind of help people through it. It's a great service. I'm not going to say that I have used the occupational health because they've been a great resource. Don't get me wrong. It's as human beings, we're not always designed to see what we see, but again, it's the it's the great support network, but also the firefighters charity as well. You know, we do a lot of great work, and I used them about 3 years ago myself.
Thank you. Yeah. I've come across trim training when we were doing emergency planning in the council. Obviously there are some situations, particularly with vulnerable people, where you might have to have some sort of support. Yes, good. Right. The other query is really about the hazmat suits.
Go for it.
You mentioned that I don't think it was the hazmat suits themselves, but the suits that you wore as a sort of quick fix, if you like. You could only spend 10 minutes in them.
No,
if you're dealing with cryogenics.
Yeah, no. So so the gas tight. So basically, so with snatch rescues, we will use our breathing apparatus sets, because that's we can don and start, so we can get those on under air within a couple of minutes. 3 minutes. We've done it. We've timed it like 3 minutes. You can go, because that's a savable life. So it's on our. We have a risk maxing, which is a very long bit of decision, but basically it's like that is the risk to us. We will take some risk to save savable life. It's not that now, it's changed, but that's how I remember it. But when we are going into full hazardous material incident protocols and procedures, if any of the incident materials are cryogenic, the gas tight suits are not designed for that temperature. So they're designed to a degree, but they're not designed to spend a lot of time within those environments. So our national operational guidance specifies that you can only be in a gas tight suit in that environment for 10 minutes. And on the outside, we have what we call entry control for BA. I could talk about this all night, but I'm not going to. And that's a single point of entry for any breathing apparatus or hazmat operations. And it's a single individual, depending on, everyone who's BA trained will be entry control. And it's solely their job to look after that team or the teams that are going into the risk area, and then pull them out to look after them as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Last one from me, and it's one which, as a safety officer, you come across quite frequently: fire extinguishers and their use by members of staff.
Okay.
Do you have as an operational firefighter? Do you have a view on?
Yeah, I do. Anything bigger than a bin fire, close the door and get out of there. Because you could be surprised how quickly that room could change from being able to handle it to someone either being overcome by smoke. So the reason people get overcome by smoke is because smoke has carbon molecules in it, and the carbon molecules replace the oxygen molecules in your blood, and that's how you suffocate. And it only takes about 2 to 3 breaths of smoke before you pass out. So, however, we design buildings and rooms to be 60 minutes, 5 compartmentations, or 2 hours if you're a specialist or whatever. 60-minute fire rating. That fire door is then going to be 30 minutes at least. So, I say, anything more than a big bin fire, close the door, get out, because a building can be replaced. That's what insurance is designed for. That's why we pay insurance as commercial entities. You can't replace a human being. So I've always said that, building, it's better for the building to be replaced than a human, because they can't. And also, if any commercial fire so we have what we call predetermined attendances to things. So any commercial fire, you're probably looking at 5 appliances responding plus an aerial ladder platform as a minimum. So you've got the resources. We have the resources to go, there you go, we'll deal with it.
Great. Well, it's nice to get some confirmation that the messages that I've been given are correct then, because we've said the same basically. Don't fight a fire unless it's probably between you and getting out. You just can't afford the time. there were some very good videos produced, I think, by the British Research Establishment on domestic fires and how quickly they spread.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying.
Oh yeah, massively. Well, there was so the Cube in Manchester. So it's a national. If you go into Manchester fire, or if you just Google the Cube report, and there's, I think, like page 50, it shows the time lapse from discarding all the building, what went wrong with the building, the time lapse of when it went from a compartmented fire to taking out half the building was about 7 minutes, and you just saw the flame just change, the flame behavior just change radically. And yeah,
great, thank you very much. That's all from me. I don't know if there's any more questions.
No, I think that's it at the moment with the questions. That's yeah, there's no more on there on the chat, so no, that's fine. Thank you very much. If that's everything, Ewan, thank you so much for doing this for us. I really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Ewan.
No, thank you. No, it's always good to be invited, and we'll look to. I'll speak to Scott to do a bit more collaboration in the new year, because we're always staffs and South Mids, and we're always interested, in terms of collaboration. It's a great way forward to use each other and kind of benefit, and it's a win-win in environment. So I'll speak to Scott in the new year, and
excellent.
Look at that.
Yeah, if you would, that would be great. Thank you. And I'm just going to quickly share, because we did have a little bit of a problem with it. Is that sharing?
Yeah, I can see that.
Hey, now it does work. It wasn't working earlier.
That's good.
Great. Okay, just quickly then, just a couple of slides. Competency framework, then this session is linked to these areas of the competence framework: risk management, incident management, which is self-explanatory, working with others, but also I'd say communication as well, isn't it, Ewan? Maybe that is one.
Absolutely. If we look at the case studies, if you look at Shirley Towers, Blainer, Grenfell, whatever ones you read through, lapse or failing communication has led to it's communication between both everyone. So I'd say communication as well.
Okay, that one will be added on there as well. So the core areas, probably planning. Do you think planning aspects involved there with competence framework? If you're at a higher level, I would say perhaps more.
I think so. Also in terms of so we are also known as Category 1 responders. So Category 1 are your police, fire, and all those lot. However, you do have Category 2s as well. So Category 2s, and we have a instrument within the Civil Contingencies Act to plan against major incidents. So I'm talking about the ones where if it went really, really wrong, but also our exercises, and we do 3 to 5 pump exercises. There's a lot of planning involved in those because we are using other people's premises. So planning. Okay,
great. All right then, so it gives people an idea on the areas to concentrate on with the CPD as well from there. That's great. So the next talk we have is on the 6th of January, where we have face-fit testing, and that's going to be a face-to-face session, and we have a venue arranged for that, so look out for the details on this. So we have Nathan Jones from 1974 Rappel Limited. So again, that should be really technical, but again, it's all communication, working with others, isn't it? That's a major part of our role, isn't it, really? So that's good. Post feedback survey, please complete this and give us your opinion on the session. And other networking opportunities, the QR codes are on there as well, and we will put this slide set up on the website for you, and we've got our LinkedIn page as well. The next few talks then for 2023, we have February, a talk with Lawrence Webb, who's the president now. He's doing a face-to-face with us. And also in March, we have Stephen Ashby coming back to us on risk-based auditing. Andrew Litchfield is doing our legal update. He's our usual legal guy. He hasn't been doing it for a year at the moment, but he's back. And that should be fascinating. So any thoughts on any legal areas you'd like him to cover, please let me know on the South Midlands at ioshnetworks.com. We have our AGM in May, although we do have to advertise obviously well before then. It's ratified really in May. So anybody interested in becoming you know, a committee member or an executive member on the committee, please do, you know, come and have a chat to us, and we'll you can have a go on the committee. So come and join us and just see what it's about. And you may be wanting to make some difference really for the members for our branch. You know, I think it's really
yeah.
important.
I'll just go just know what Kerry said there as well. You know, because I'm a vice chair of another Staffordshire branch, and I've got a heck of a lot out of it. You know, and we are there to serve the members, but honestly, you know, I've presented 3 times now. Yeah, it's great for my own development as well. So you know, it really is it's a win-win. So you know, chance to give back, but also you know, you do get a lot out of it. I know I'm sounding very biased towards it, but no, definitely it's honestly, yeah. If you get the opportunity, you know, throw your name in the ring. You know, do it for as long as you can. Things change, things change, but you know. South Mids is a great branch, great group of people are there, and also there's a lot of time and a lot of things that go in the background to set events up as well. You know, from both my experience doing it myself and others, and also the mock trial that I did last year and setting up and other kind of face-to-face events. There's a lot of hard work and very dedicated people within those committees.
Yes, it is, and I'm retiring next year after 10 years.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, so you know, poor old Scott, he's got to do all the carrying on, but no, that's great. So as you can see, we have further for the big year, and we have them to the end of the year, more or less. December we're still looking for. So anybody interested as well in doing a talk for us, that would be great for members, and that to hear from members as you are and so yeah. Please come and tell us. So from that, we hope you enjoyed it, and apologies for the little bit of a technical glitch at the front. Just shows you, even if you planned it and practiced it, something can go amiss. You know, so but thank you so much for attending, everyone, and thank you for stepping in with arranging those slides, and everyone for coming, and you, and particularly for your time. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.